We now welcome onto the show a huge guest. It's Steve Hamer, VFL. You all know him. Y'all love him. And I say huge for a variety of reasons. Mainly, he's a 7-footer. We don't get many of those very often. that right there, that's awesome. Steve, how are you doing tonight?
Man, doing really, really well. Thank you guys so very much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do want to mention you got a title with the University of Tennessee. It's the Director of Letter Winner Relations. Am I saying that correctly? It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a mouthful for sure. It's a colloquialism for I'm our VFL director.
Okay.
So I've been in this role now for I don't know, a year and a half or so, man, and I really love the opportunity and relish the opportunities to reach out to our letter winners, past and present, and I'm charged with building a rapport with them and making sure that they've got a way to get back to university, man. So, I don't take that lightly because everyone that's donned the orange, from our rowing team to basketball to baseball, golf, tennis, they 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 mean so much to our university, particularly our athletic department. And man, I'm charged with building that rapport, man, and making sure that they're welcome and feel a sense of connectivity.
That's awesome. You're also a an analyst for the games this season for SEC Network Plus. What's that kind in the Vol Network? What has that kind of been like for you, just being that close to the court, and how hard is it to stay kind of unbiased?
Man, it's very hard to stay unbiased, particularly when I've got such a rooting and vested interest in our basketball team. Um, you know, I, I've wanted to be in the realm of broadcasting, honestly, guys, since I can remember. And God has really blessed me with the opportunity to not only do it on the SEC Network digital side, but to be able to travel with the basketball team as well and be a color analyst alongside one of the greats in Bob Kessling. So I don't ever take that lightly, man. I'm extremely blessed and just love the opportunity. Again, since I can remember, I've always marveled at the Marv Alberts and I could go on and on with the old timers, but I just remember watching them and thinking, how cool is that they get to sit courtside and watch some of the greatest athletes in the world perform at an elite level, and you get paid for it. So it's just absolutely amazing, and I'm just blessed to be able to have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, now I'll let you be unbiased for a second here. How does it feel to be an SEC champion?
It feels great. This is a Big Orange podcast, so man, I can be as
Absolutely.
biased as I want to be.
Sure.
Again, having a vested and rooting interest in the University of Tennessee, having worn and donned the orange many years ago, it means a great deal for us to be able to capture outright the SEC regular season title for the first time since 2008. And it's a group of young men. I tweeted this last night, but the tenacity, the toughness, and the grit in which these guys display every single night is unmatched. It's unparalleled. The togetherness that they display. I think in years past we might have lost a game like what we had against Auburn, particularly when we were up by 9, then we got down by 8. I think we might have lost in years past against a formidable opponent like Alabama on the road, sellout crowd, game days there, but we pulled it out. And then, fast forward just a few nights later, you win the SEC outright and are now crowned regular season champs in Columbia, which, by the way, was the 6th straight AP top 25 opponent that the Vols have played, and you win it in a different manner every night. So I could not be more proud of this iteration of Tennessee basketball than I am right now.
You mentioned that kind of determination from this club is a little bit different than years past. What in particular are you seeing with this team that is different from every team since that probably 07-08 when they were the regular season champs?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into it, but there's a couple of key facets that I find that are different about this particular team than the one that we watched 07-08. One of them is depth. I think top to bottom, this may be one of Coach Barnes's best teams in terms of talent.
Yeah.
Whereas, 07, 08, man, we were a really good team back then, but I think 1 through 5 were really, really good. And then it kind of tapered off after that. But man, this team on any given night, obviously we've got our superhero in Dalton Connect who could give you 30, 40 any night. But what's special is that you've got someone like Jemai Mashak, who is unheralded, who doesn't get all of the accolades, doesn't get all the glory, but he does all the dirty work. And for me, he was the MVP of that game against Alabama. The three, and then running down the court and intercepting a pass like a defensive back. Those things, man, they don't go unnoticed. So I think that's one key aspect. And then the other is, I'm going to say it again, the connectivity of this basketball team. Coach Barnes kind of alluded to it last night when Director of Basketball Operations Mary Carter pulled him aside and said, Coach, this team really loves one another. And Coach Barnes said, you know what? They really do. They love being around one another. They love being in the gym. They love the aspect of playing together and playing for a common goal. And it shows on the court. It really shows when these guys get together. It shows that they put in the work in the offseason. They've done all of the work necessary to have an extra special season and to continue to play not only guys in March, but hopefully in April as well.
Yeah, and going back to Jemai, there's not a coach in the country, surely not, that would not love to have Jemai Mashak and Tobe Awaka coming off the bench for them. I mean, those are, like you said, the depth on this team is just it's unreal. And then another thing that goes into the cohesiveness and connectivity of this team. Everyone seems to know their role. I think it's gotten lost this year on a lot of people that, especially Vescovi, he's had to kind of take a step back a little bit in the scoring department. The stats don't look the same because of guys like Dalton Connect. There's just not room for it. Is this one of the better coaching jobs that Rick Barnes has done for that reason, that guys have had to not only change roles, but it seems like everyone knows their role on this team, it seems?
Yeah, that's a great point and a great question, because if you go back roughly 5 months ago, Santiago Vescovi is pinned as a first-team All-SEC player.
Mm.
I don't have the box score in front of me from last night, but I believe that he scored 2 points.
Yep.
Can I give you another?
Yeah, go ahead.
Crazy stat. He had 2 points. A teammate of his had 26. He led the team in plus minus.
Yes.
That is wild.
It speaks to the roles in which everyone knows. Now, obviously they live by the moniker ENOM, which stands for "It's Not About Me." Never has that been more prevalent than it is this year. Because look, if you're a first team All SEC guy, you've garnered all the accolades preseason. You've done it at such an elite level. Some guys would have a tendency to say, you know what, man, if you're not going to run a play for me, I'm going to take off the next couple of sequences on the defensive end. Okay. I'm just not going to give my effort in practice anymore. I'm not going to run as hard in conditioning. But that's not what Santiago, that's not what Josiah Jordan-James, that's not what Jemai Mason, that's not what those guys do, because there's a greater goal. There's a commonality and a goal in that, look, I don't care who gets the credit. I just want to win. And that's what it boils down to. You just intimated, man, Santi's got the highest plus minus on the team from last night. Well, that just tells me that, you know what, I can have my fingerprints on the game in a myriad of other ways. Defensively, I can get my hands in passing lanes. I can get 3 or 4 steals. I don't have to be that guy that scores every single night. But you know what though? Here's the difference. I can be if need be. I can still don't sleep on me now. I can still give you 12 to 15 if need be. But even beyond that, Santi still got the belief in Coach Barnes. Look, when you guys probably saw this as well as I did, when they come back from a timeout and they show Santiago sitting next to Coach Barnes with the clipboard and drawing up the play, not for himself, but drawing up a play to get Dalton Connect open, man, I'm telling you, it's a special team. Special team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another kind of guy that's had a change of roles from last year is the guy that played your position, Jonas Adu. Another lanky, and I think he's on his way. I don't know if he's a first team All SEC, but he better be second, or there's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans and some mentions elsewhere. But what is a guy like? How easier of a job is it for a guy like Jonas Adu in that position to not have to be the focal point because you have a great scorer like Dalton Connect? You know, when you played with a guy, a lot of people know Allen Houston. You know, how much easier did that make your job?
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, Jonas has the luxury of obviously he's very talented. He's a rim protector extraordinaire, great rebounder, great hands. Has such a really good touch with even though he's not a southpaw, man. You wouldn't know it, right? Because he shoots with the left so much in terms of the soft jump hook or left hand baby finish at the rim. But what speaks to how special it is for Jonas, you know, don't forget that the lineup in which he plays with Joe, with Santi, with Zakai, and with Dalton, teams can't really make him the focal point in terms of guarding him defensively. If you put too much attention on Jonas and double team him, Jonas is a very willing passer and a very capable passer, and there are 4 guys on the floor with him that can knock down a 3. When you also talk about putting Jonas in a high pick and roll action, well, I mean, it's really pick your poison, right? Because if you hedge too hard on that screen, on the high ball pick and roll, he's going to roll to the basket. And because we've got shooters all over the floor, man, you're either going to switch or you're going to give up an open dunk. Conversely, if you play drop coverage on the pick and roll and you don't come up and guard whoever Jonas is guarding or setting the screen for, you're going to leave him wide open for a knockdown 3. So, you know, and Jonas can be a pick and pop as well. Let's not forget that. He's got some 3s on the season. He's got a soft touch. So, man, it's really a pick your poison, and he fits perfectly into Coach Barnes' scheme that he can stretch the floor, he's agile, he can run, and he can finish at the rim.
Yeah, and you talked about it. Jonas is great from 15 feet. I think this team as a whole, you have Dalton Connect, who has that beautiful just stop and plant jumper from 15. Josiah, that might be where he's best at. You getting some remnants of old basketball in there? Not a lot of people are taking 15-footers. I mean, famously, they ran it all over. Nate Oates, I don't think lets his guys take 15-footers.
Yeah, you know, I don't even think that's in Nate Oates' arsenal, right? If they're not shooting 45 threes a game, man, I mean, something's wrong. But it is a lost art, guys. It's a lost art, man. And I blame, you know, at the risk of playing the role of grandpa, right? Get off my lawn. I blame AAU, man. I blame a lot of that because a lot of kids nowadays, man, as soon as they want to get into the gym, they either want to try to dunk or shoot a 3. And the 15 feet and in is just marginalized now, man. Nobody wants to do it. But you know what? It still counts for 2 points. And if you're going down and you're scoring two from 15 feet and in, and the opposing team is going down and jacking up threes and they're missing them, I like my chances in that game. And for Coach Barnes to run that floppy action a lot where he's got two screeners on either block and it's up to Dalton Connect to choose which side he's going to come off of. Well, Dalton has a tendency to curl that screen and get to that, that pinch post there, or get to the nail, get to the elbow, and he's deadly. Mm-hmm. Conversely, you've also got Josiah Jordan-James, man, that can just work his way in and reverse pivot, man, and knock it down over anyone. So it's a lost art, but man, I'm glad that Coach Barnes hasn't lost that art.
Yeah, and we're getting right into tournament time, and this team is won, it seems like, some tournament games over the past few weeks. What is the X factor for Tennessee to be the last team standing at the end of this?
Another really good question. For me, I think the X factor, we talked about this, but I think the X factor has to be Josiah Jordan-James and Santiago Vescovi. I think we're to the point now in this season in which, the book is out, man. There's nothing new under the sun. The book is out on everything that we do. Our opponents know what we're going to do, and yet we still find a way to get it done. But with that being said, we know what we're going to get out of Zakai, pretty much, right? We're going to get anywhere from 5 to 10 assists, low turnover, 1, maybe 2 turnovers. We know what we're going to get out of Jonas Adu. We're hoping to get anywhere from 12 to 18 points, 8-9 rebounds. We know what we're going to get from Dalton Connect. Even on an off night, he's going to still give you 18, 20 and several rebounds. The key is, what can Santi give us consistently on a tournament run? Because you're gonna run into a team like an FAU that's going to force your hand in terms of, I'm not going to let Dalton Connect beat me. I'm just not. Every time he gets the ball, I'm going to run 2 at him. And he's going to have to pass it to Santi. He's going to have to pass it to Joe. And they're going to be the ones that beat us. So I think that alone is the X factor. If they can give us productivity on a consistent basis, I firmly, guys, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a homer or anything like that, but I firmly believe that we can be the last team standing. I don't know if you saw the great Wally Zerbiak, his comments earlier last night or maybe today, where he talked about is Zach Edey the player of the year, and the panel in which he joined, everyone said, "Oh, Zach Edey, he's the runaway player of the year, man. He's double, improved the numbers from last year. He's gotten better. He's more agile." Wally Zerbiak said, "Whoa, guys, wait a minute. The player of the year nationally is Dalton Connect, and the team to beat nationally is the University of Tennessee." So I can't find any room to differ with Wally Zerbiak, man. I think that this team, when they put it all together, can be the last team standing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned those 2 guys. Yeah, for real. I'm glad you mentioned those 2 guys, because I gave a maybe hot take only because it may not be enough. So I want to get your thoughts. I said if Josiah and Santiago, between the 2 of them, score 16 points in a game, Tennessee will not lose. That's assuming they do what they do defensively, but 16 points they won't lose between the 2 of them.
100%. Let's go back and look at the Alabama game. And again, I don't have the box score in front of me, but Santi looked like the Santi of old, man, knocking down threes. Joe had a huge 3 in the corner, got to the 10 and finished at the basket, got to the free throw line. I could not agree more. If they can give you 8 to 10 points apiece, and you get that that normal scoring from Dalton. You get the normal scoring from Zakai. Man, there's not a whole lot of teams in the country that are going to give you 1 through 5 scoring. It just doesn't happen. Even if you go to Purdue and look at Purdue, they got the kid that lit us up for roughly 25 points. His name is escaping me right now. Out in Honolulu, great score. Take nothing from him. Then you got Zach Edey on the interior. But the other 3 guys, man, they're not going to give you that every night. And were it not, I think it's I cannot remember his name, but the kid that lit us up on the perimeter, let's say he scores 10 to 15 points. That's it. It's Lawyer.
Yeah.
Let's say he scores a normal game of 10 to 12 and Zach Edey gets 25. Well, I'll take my chances, guys. I don't believe the other 3 guys are going to beat us. So, I think those guys are going to be our X factor. And we can ride with those guys, man, because they've been there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fired up for March just because I think this is the year that, I mean, anybody can win it. I feel like, there's not a clear cut number 1 team right now, but I feel like Tennessee is as good as anybody. And I'm not looking at the bracket right now, whatever the projections are, and just being like, oh yeah, like, I don't want to face that team and that team and that team. I'm like, they got to come play us. We're now the team that nobody wants to play.
Yeah. I completely agree. And with that, it's one thing to be the hunted, but it's quite another thing to be the hunter. And I think that Tennessee earlier on this year, because of the name that was associated with the or the number that was associated with the University of Tennessee, we were the hunted. And it took us a while, man, to settle in and just embrace that role of being, okay, all right, we're gonna get everybody's best shot. All right, that's fine. We're gonna play. We're gonna play the right way. We're gonna do what we've done in practice, and we're gonna come out with a W because we've got expertise, we've got depth, we've got shooting, we've got size, we've got skill at every position. So it's right now. We have done such a wonderful job of being in tournament mode already. You looked at the last 4 games of this season and you wondered, man, could this team go 3-1? It's going to be tough. You go to Alabama, you got Auburn, you go to South Carolina, then you play Kentucky, man. This team has a chance to go 4-0. And you better believe this is just like a tournament run, man, where each and every night you're going to get someone's best. And kudos to Coach Barnes and that wonderful staff, man, for getting the guys to understand that your tournament run's already started. And man, you got a lot to play for.
Yeah. They can't reiterate enough how huge the last 3 games are. It's going to be big if you can close out the season strong on Saturday. We've talked about it. If you want to win what you want to win here, you got to go perfect the next, I think it was 13 games at that point. So it definitely a tall task, but like Landon said, Tennessee has the components for it. So I'm fired up. I did want to ask you one personal question here, as I did some little research on you. You're a Grand Junction guy. I think you get associated with Memphis, which is fair, but Grand Junction. I was on the Wikipedia last night. I saw there was a population spike, about 120, grew about 120 people to 484 in early 2000, right around the time you were drafted and you're by the Boston Celtics. Do you think that was because of you? People started moving there. You put Grand Junction on the map?
No, I certainly didn't put them on the map, but I can tell you this much, man. As crazy as this may sound, just my next door neighbor. Okay, so if you go back and you look at the most recent census, I believe it will tell you that there's roughly 330 people that live there now. So when I grew up, obviously a lot less than that. But my next door neighbor, you guys are too young to remember who this is, but my next door neighbor was Bobby Parks. Bobby Parks played at Memphis State University. was an all-conference player and literally did not get drafted in the NBA, but went on to have like a 15, 20-year career in the Philippines, and just did extraordinarily well. Well, with that being said, you know, it's pretty incredible that two guys that were next door neighbors from a town of about 300 people would go on and play, you know, collegiately and professionally. You know, Grand Junction, man, we don't have any stoplights. We got a few stop signs. We're known for the National Bird Dog Field Museum, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I never went there. So
I was gonna ask you about that. I was confused. So
yeah, man, it was a big thing back in the day. The National Bird Dog Field Trials were held in Grand Junction, Tennessee at a place called Ames Plantation every single year. And man, people would come and the town would swell to about 1,000 people for a few days. And I never, you know, that didn't interest my mom and my dad, so I never went. But that was our claim to fame, man. And
love it.
It still holds a very dear spot in my heart, man, because it was like the town of Mayberry, man, where everyone knew one another and just a small hometown feel, man, that I owe a lot to.
So Caleb thinks the population spiked because you got drafted by the Celtics. I think it might be when you had 31-21 against Alabama. When you do something like that against Alabama, I mean, Jalen Hyatt can tell you you will not have to pay for another meal in Knoxville ever again.
Well, I don't know if we can you know, really and honestly say that that's why it spiked, but I will tell you this much: it's always special beating Alabama in any sport.
Absolutely.
In any sport, man. If we're playing tiddlywinks and dominoes, man, I want to crush the University of Alabama. So it's always special.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Hey, I got one more question for you. You know, talking about you getting drafted, pretty famous draft class there with Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Kobe Bryant. I don't know if you know him or not, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
You know, what was that kind of like, just be kind of associated and just kind of being on the same kind of wavelength as those guys?
It was absolutely fantastic. And I was humbled to be a part. You know, I grew up hating the Celtics, man, with a passion. I really did. It is, man. God's got a sense of humor because, man, I literally hated the Celtics with a passion, man. I can remember my dad like getting on to me because every single time we didn't have cable growing up, so we would watch the CBS game of the week. And, you know, more times than not, the Celtics were on there, man. And I would get so mad because they got all the calls, they got the players. And my dad would get on to me and it's like, man, you better, you know, calm down, control yourself. And then I ended up getting drafted by the Celtics. So, you know, you talk about just one of the most storied franchises in all of sports, not just basketball, but all of sports with the amount of world championships that they've won and the people that came before me and now the people that have obviously come along after me. Man, it was awesome. But when you look back at the totality of that particular class that went in, I don't, you know, some think that it's probably the deepest class that there ever was, right? You know,
It's insane.
you got Kerry Kittles and Antoine Walker and, you know, you got all these guys, man, that went on to have these tremendous careers. And just to be a part of it, man, is very, very special.
Yeah.
Well, last question, since Landon brought up that draft class, we've seen Allen Iverson's, we've seen Kobe Bryant's suit. How ill-fitting was your suit on draft night?
Oh man, you know, I will tell you this, man. I'll tell you this. my wife's sitting right here next to me, and if she would have seen me in this outfit, well, she probably wouldn't be sitting next to me. So I well remember, man. I went to Westtown Mall, and I didn't go up to draft night or do anything like that, but I went to Westtown Mall before I went to Nashville. My brother, I went to one of my brother's house in Nashville, and was going to have a watch party there with my mom and my dad, and just some friends and stuff like that. So I said, man, I'm going to do it right, guys. And I went to Back Rack. You guys probably never heard of Back Rack, man, but I got these shorts, these colorful shorts, man, and I got like a cardigan, wearable, man. And, it wasn't a good look. I'm glad that there's no footage that from that draft night.
That's awesome. Real quick, you don't have you and Rick Pitino made up any?
I will say this. I haven't spoken to Rick Pitino. I found out, guys, this is a true story. I found out that I was waived by the Boston Celtics while sitting at Thompson Bowling Arena reading the Knoxville News Sentinel, the transaction page.
Oh my God.
And I back in the day, that's how all news was disseminated, right? Just
Right.
You had to read the newspaper, you had to read the sports to see who was waived, who was cut, who was signed. And man, I just happened to be sitting there, and I was reading the paper, and I saw my name, and it said the Boston Celtics, waived Steve Hamer. Well, I never got a call from the Celtics. I never got a, hey man, thank you, or hey, you want to come and work out with us. I never got that from Rick Pitino. And man, that hurt for a long time. Just in the spirit of transparency, it hurt for a long time. But man, I'm not gonna harbor any ill will for.
But you're not
Rick
cheering for
Pitino,
St. John's, are you?
I'm not necessarily cheering for St. John's. I would say that, but it is what it is. It's a business, and I was a young man that didn't understand that, man. It's a business, and I learned right away that when you're in college, man, kids are playing for rings and watches. In the NBA, you're playing for houses and cars.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to understand that. So, man, it's all good. I love the Celtics now. I still have not taken my wife and kids up to a Celtics game, but I hope to do so at some point very, very soon.
That's awesome. Hey, we'll this is all. I had a great time. I love talking ball. You do a great job of, getting into the nitty gritty of basketball. So after we win a natty, we'll just do this again.
Yeah.
Well, man, any time, man, I'm honored to be on with you guys. I'm a talker. I love talking ball, man, and I'm sure it drives my wife crazy, but it's just it's in my fiber. So, and I appreciate this opportunity, man. Look forward to being on with you guys again sometime soon.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you again, and have a good rest of your night. And let's get a win over Kentucky Saturday. Kind of really complete the regular season.
I love it, man. Let's go 4-0 down this stretch, man. That'd be awesome.
Yes, sir. Go Vols.
Go Vols.
Thanks, Steve.